Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 40 of the Cosmic Force. On tonight's episode, we are going back to War of the Bounty Hunter one final time to discuss the trade paperback collection of the one-shots. We'll discuss the highlights of each title, which was our favorite, and what impact these titles had on the whole crossover event. But first, let's go ahead and say hi to everybody else tonight, and we'll start where we always do with Emma. And Emma, it's a sad time for you and I, you more so than me. But yeah, it's a sad time for us sports fans.
It is very sad. Hello, everybody. My boy, Tom Brady, has announced he's retiring, which is very sad for me. For those of us who are listening to us and only know my voice, I am very young. In fact, the first year that Tom Brady played in the NFL was the year I was born. And so I've never known the NFL without him. And yeah, it's going to be weird. So my Tom Brady jersey's at home. I'm at school right now. So I figured I'd at least rock my Patriots hat to honor him. So yeah, going to miss TB12. So that was sad. But the awesome Star Wars day today totally balanced it out. It's like a banner day in Star Wars today. Like one of the best days we've had in a long time. So I'm feeling a lot better now, for sure.
If there's anything that's going to get us over this tragedy, myself as a Bucs fan, so I've adopted Tom as my quarterback. It's this kind of Star Wars week.
Absolutely.
So yeah, definitely. So Caleb, I don't think you're as into the sports world as the rest of us, but we can talk about Star Wars and how great of a week it's been.
It's been a really good week, and I'll just say, Atlanta still remembers.
28-3.
We still remember that. So no, I'm not going to rub any salt into wounds, not like you could for that. For like somewhat, I saw it best described as if there was a Mount Rushmore of sports, like it'd be a shame not to put him on there.
Oh, absolutely. And if only because while he elicits sadness out of people like Emma and myself, Jacob, can you do what you were doing behind the scenes just now when I was talking about
I was
him?
having a party. I grew up in Indiana and grew up as a Colts fan. You know, in my head, Tom Brady is the quarterback of our childhood, and mine was Peyton Manning. And Peyton Manning was great until he had to play Tom Brady in the playoffs. So yes, it is a very happy day for all of us. The Colts official Twitter account posted a meme of SpongeBob where Squidward shakes his hand and then says I'm sorry you're leaving, and it goes in parties in his house, and that's really encompassing of how all of us feel across the NFL. Yeah. Okandar's in the chat. He's from Colorado, so he's probably a Broncos fan, which means also a Peyton Manning brethren. So yes, screw Tom Brady. Enjoy your retirement. Enjoy your crypto ads and your ads with Gronk about T-Mobile. I don't even know. Whatever. I'm ready to move on.
If we're missing anything, I'm glad you touched on that. What we're actually missing is a great retirement T-Mobile commercial next year about what was misheard during when you don't have a good signal. So that is the biggest tragedy of all this whole situation.
It's gonna be Brady on one end and then Schefter on the other, reporting his retirement 2 days early.
Yes.
Well, if you are joining us for the first time, welcome. We do not normally talk about sports this much. That's because we are a Star Wars.
Caleb's I doubt that.
We're gonna kick off Caleb and bring on Eric, and it's just gonna be the sports podcast.
Well, normally we are a Star Wars comics podcast that broadcasts live right here on youtube.com/Utini every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. If you can't join us live, that's okay. We are also on all of your favorite podcasting platforms, so be sure to check us out there as well. We're also part of the Utini podcast network of nearly a dozen shows and a Discord channel at utini.com/Discord with more than 1,000 members with dozens of channels to choose from. If you like what you see and you want to say thanks, then head over to our Patreon channel at patreon.com/Utini, where for as little as $5 a month, you can gain exclusive access to the entire Utini podcast network of shows, as well as exclusive merch and community involvement activities and shout outs, which is something that we're actually doing new this week. We do want to recognize our new patrons this week and shouting them out to say thank you for their support. So Emma, I believe you've got a list of all of our new patrons for the week.
That's right. Yeah, we've had some incredible support. So I want to say thank you to our new monthly patrons, Nathan Roberts, Stephanie Mack, and Jacob Sudam. I hope I pronounced that right. I'm so sorry. And our new annual patrons, Brandon Medley and Adam. So thank you all so much for your amazing support. It's your support that makes us be able to do this show and Utini be able to do many other projects. So thank you guys so much.
Yes, thank you from all of us. All right, Jacob, we've got our weekly pull list, and we've got a very packed week this week. What do we have at our local comic stores?
We do. We have a lot of exciting issues this week. We have Crimson Reign #2, which I don't know about you guys. It felt for me like it's been like a month and a half since we've seen Crimson Reign. It feels like it's been a long time. Yeah,
it has.
But yeah, Crimson Reign #2, The Assassins, written by Charles Soule. Pencils by Stephen Cummings. The cover is by Lionel Francis Yu. The inker is Victor Olazaba. The colorist is Guru EFX, and the letterer is Travis Lanham. We also have Halcyon Legacy, which is the first issue in a 5-issue miniseries, reminiscent of Galaxy's Edge, if anyone's read that. It even has the same creative team of Ethan Sachs, Will Sliney. The cover is from EM Gist. The colorist is Rochelle Rosenberg, and the letterer is Joe Sabino. And then we have High Republic #14, The Edge of Destruction, written by Kevin Scott, pencils by Ario Anandito. The cover is by Phil Noto. Inker is Mark Morales. The colorist is Carlos Lopez, and the letterer is Ariana Meyer. So, as always, you can get the links for those in the YouTube description. I would say, I don't know about you guys, I would say, well, Caleb can't really say much, but this would be the first High Republic issue I would wait till after I read Fallen Star, probably. It's like running that line where it's, I mean, they're gonna they're gonna intermingle a little bit, but I think this is kind of where I would stop if you haven't finished that book yet. What do you guys think?
So to clarify, before you read this episode, because my local comic store didn't have their shipment got sent to Orlando, so I don't have this week's issues yet. So
sure. I said I will say, don't sleep on the Halcyon Legacy, even though it is.
Right.
You could almost say it's an extended ad for the $4,000 vacation package.
Something crazy.
I think you're underselling it.
It depends on how many. It depends on how many people are there. It can run upwards of 5,000. Thank you very much.
A comic designed to sell you a $5,000 vacation package in Florida. It's good. It's like really good. Like really, really good. And it has a really wild Legends pull from this 1977 Star Wars comic series. They brought it back a character that had I saw him wait, I only remember this because we read some 77 comics earlier last year. I was like, there's no way. Went immediately to Wikipedia and they already updated. I'm sure enough, they brought this character back. It's the wildest thing.
Yeah, so all of the comics that came out today were absolutely amazing. I have to shout out Halcyon Legacy for bringing in Babu Frick's species. I think it's like an Anzellan or something like that. I could be totally wrong, but that was absolutely. I gasped when I saw that. I loved it. And he sat on the little dude's shoulder. It was so funny. But yeah, High Republic #14, really solid stuff. It tied in with the High Republic, the Fallen Star, very well. And honestly, Trail of Shadows has been doing a great job tying into the Fallen Star as well. So yeah, I'm definitely feeling like phase 1 is wrapping up, coming to a close, and it's a little sad, but there's a lot of loose ends here that I'm excited to keep on exploring, hopefully later on. So
Jacob, we got a good question in the chat from Andrew. Is Halcyon a one-shot, or is it a part of a miniseries? So
it's a 5-issue miniseries. It's, if you've read, I mentioned it in the weekly poll a little bit, but if you've read the Galaxy's Edge miniseries, it's very similar to that. Where basically, or it's kind of similar to some of the Vader's Castle comics, where there's an overarching story across the 5 issues, but then there'll be a character basically I'm gonna tell you a story, and it's gonna do a single 1-issue self-contained story somewhere along the timeline relating to the location. So for this, it's the starship. So it's gonna be somewhere like that. This issue was a High Republic story they tell, but the main overarching story across all 5 issues takes place during the era of the First Order. So
all right, well, be sure to check out your local comic stores or your digital comic places to get those added to your collection. But for now, we are going to go into what we're loving. And Caleb, I believe you have a community submission of the week.
Absolutely. This one came from our very one and only submitter, Blind Fates. He picked a really good one. This is from the Vader 2020 series, issue 15. This features Uchi of Bastoon showing off, like, I think really for the first time into comics, like really how competent of a warrior he is, as he's doing backflips, shooting up a bunch of guards, trying to, doing some like Deadpool-esque quipping throughout the sort of thing. Is that it was like, I was kind of indifferent on Uchi for a while, but I think this issue made me realize, okay, he's actually good at his job and actually a lot of fun to be around. The pencils were by Raphael Ienco and the colors were by Jason Keith. So overall, an amazing pick. I think when I first saw him, like, this is the one that we should go for. So really, really solid option here.
Yeah, Uchi of Bastoon is become a favorite character of mine to follow in the comics. So to really see him get introduced and see what they've done with him, it's been a lot of fun. I enjoy his character and how he was introduced to us in Rise of Skywalker to see what he's doing now. It's been awesome. But all right, now let's go ahead and check in with what we're reading, and we're gonna I've kind of forced this into a regular segment here because Caleb is trying to catch up on the High Republic because he's been a little bit behind. So I wanted to check in with him real quick to see exactly how far we've gotten on catching up with the High Republic.
I've like an hour and a half left in the audiobook of Rising Storm. So
okay,
I'm almost done with that one. I'll probably finish it off a little bit later this week, and then I realized I still have like a month, literally until the next Eye of the Storm comic comes out. So I have a little bit of time, so I might go back and go through and read the middle grade school novel, the one that's
you have to read Mission to Disaster.
So I'll probably be able to squeeze that in real quick and then do Fallen Star.
Okay. All right.
And then I'll probably have to move on to what's the book that just came out this week?
Midnight Horizon.
I'll probably have to read that one then.
That is an excellent segue there, Caleb, because Jacob has been reading Midnight Horizon, and as the person who is most caught up, one of the two people, because I would say Emma's usually caught up.
Yeah, I literally cannot get farther caught up than Emma, so that would be illegal. But anyways, I started reading Midnight Horizon that came out yesterday. Very exciting. I am. I want to say like 50-ish pages in. It's been a fun read. I was talking with Eric a little bit last night where I'm like, this is like, I haven't read a YA book in a while. I think Out of the Shadows was probably my last one. And it's very nice because even though Midnight Horizon is like 500 pages long, the pages, like, you burn through the pages insanely quickly. So, I was reading for like, I don't know, maybe like an hour, a little bit over last night. And the story just flies by. For our comic readers out here, which I know we have many, if you are a fan of High Republic Adventures, this is a pretty good continuation of that story with a lot of our favorite characters. So I would definitely recommend it.
Yeah, I need to start that. It has been really busy with school, but Jacob is now technically a tiny bit ahead of me in the High Republic, which is really weird to say. But
Man, what a night for Jacob.
It feels a little weird to not be the one that's ahead, but that's okay. I will relinquish my title for a little bit here. But I'm supposed to get a snowstorm this weekend, another one. So
it's like, I got one tomorrow.
Perfect time to, absolutely. It's the perfect time to, read a ton of High Republic. So I'll catch up to you next week. I hope.
Well,
I've got it on my I've got it on my desk. It's just I'm about 2/3 of the way through Resistance Reborn, and I'm having a blast in that, and all my comics. So I'm trying to finish all that before I dive into that. So by the time we meet again next week, I'll have started it. So, all right, let's go ahead and take a quick break, and then when we come back, we are going to talk about the Bounty Hunter one shots for War of the Bounty Hunter. So we'll be right back.
It's what Jimmy McGinty says Shane Falco needs.
Charles is calling. Put him on. Wait, is this the first time caller?
Hello, you are live on the Living Force. Yes. What's your question?
My question is for Wes. Why does he think that he can do my job?
Corey put me up to it. Oh my God.
Because Corey made you do it? That's your answer?
Oh, man, this was.
I'm enjoying the show. I won't interrupt anymore. Have fun.
How canon is Darth Bane? Obviously, he is samurai body voiced by Mark Hamill is in season 6 of the Clone Wars, and they reference Bane's order and all that. You created the rule of two, but he was the worst Yoda I've ever done. I'm getting tired. It's been a long week.
Is that what that was?
I
thought you were having a voice moment.
Yeah.
I didn't even get the word structure right.
Oh man.
Edit that in post, Rick. How canon?
You put this image in my head of Piet just whipping out an Uno reverse card and slapping it down.
Bam.
Take that.
Yeah, Vader does not play Uno though, so I don't think that would be a wise long-term discussion.
He doesn't have the patience for it. He just force chokes everybody.
Exactly.
All right, we are back. And like I said at the top of the show, we are discussing the trade paperback for the War of the Bounty Hunters Companions for all the one-shots. This includes the Jabba the Hutt, Forlom and Zuckuss, Bausch, and the IG-88. The trade paperback came out recently, but all of these issues, all of the single shots, they were kind of distributed throughout the whole arc of the event. And normally we kind of give a rundown of all of the issues and then we discuss it at the end, but we're gonna skip that and we're just gonna actually talk about each issue and give a little bit of a rundown and then talk about it and then move on to the next one. So I'll go ahead and get started and with Jabba the Hutt Trust Issues. This was written by Justina Ireland. Art was by Ibram Robertson and Luca Pizzari, and this was the floppy was released on July 21st, 2021. And this volume is all about how Jabba learned that Boba Fett had a delay in delivery and sent Deva Lompop to find out what the issue was. In this issue, we also get a flashback about the first time Deva and Fett worked together and how Deva joined up with Crimson Dawn. In the present, Deva sells Solo to Crimson Dawn by the end of the issue, who arranges an auction for the smuggler who is currently on ice. And despite being titled Jabba the Hutt, the main character really was Deva throughout the issue. And I'm going to go ahead and open this up to the rest of the team here. I'm going to start with Caleb and ask, has there been any other characters that have had such a strong introduction as she did in this issue?
Like, this might sound a little like weird or blasphemy, but I don't think ever since we've never been introduced to a character of this caliber since it feels like Dr. Aphra back in 2015 when she first came out. Like,
see that?
When she came out, and we saw her character design and we saw what she was doing, it's like, okay, this is an important character who we are making for comics who's going to be around for a while. Like, this is going to be someone that has legs. And we've seen characters be introduced in comics before, like Boko the Hutt, a couple other ones, but we kind of look at them and we know you're going to be kind of relevant to this section here, and then we're going to kill you off at the end of the series. Like, I'm not saying Deva is going to be immortal and be stuck around for a good long time, but I think they're establishing her as someone who's going to be a important person for a lot of different things.
Now, I have the book pulled up, and she is a Shawnee female bounty hunter. Have we? I don't recall. I'm not as out of a Legends comic reader as some of you guys, but I have read a lot of Legends novels. I don't recall a Shawnee species being mentioned before. So
no,
is this a brand new species?
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, it's her character design is very interesting. Like, her hair is kind of like actually feathers, which is really cool. And her the suit that she wears when she goes hunting is kind of like it almost like the front of it kind of looks like reptile scales or something. I don't know. Her look is very cool. I love it a lot.
Like, as weird as it sounds, like she's changed, like just in this first issue. This is her like debut issue. This first time we see her name, we see her introduced. She changes like outfits like 4 times. And that's and for as a comic characters go, that doesn't happen like almost ever. Like, you know, Boba Fett, like it has 2 modes, helmet on or helmet off. But so like, you know, being able to see her like change clothes and have like different like outfits, like, okay, this character has a lot of different roles they can fill. Like, you know, like when she tries to the seductress in the bar, like her hair is very obviously different, and when she's battle mode, it's a feathered mohawk and it's great.
There was one part I legit laughed out loud when I was reading this, and it was the payoff to the line that was about a third of the way through when Boba said, the person that they were after was an ex of hers, and Boba threw out a line as, "Oh, I pegged you for the kind that eats your exes," and she said something like, "Oh, Deveronians are meaty, too chewy," and I thought, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's some pretty witty banter." And at the end of the book, she legit eats the guy, and I was like, "Oh, that is so cool!" Like I legit laughed out loud at that and thought, "Okay." Even if there was no other part of her that I loved, which I loved all of her, just that payoff of like, okay, this is a keeper. This character is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, she is a badass in every sense of the word, and I love it. I mean, she doesn't take any BS from anybody. She can hold her own in a fight. Like, it's all the makings of a really amazing character. I mean, she's got the great banter, like you said, that's also very important. And Justina Ireland writes her like to perfection. It's a really great combo, and I hope we get to see her more.
Exactly. Now, one quick thing I want to say is, like, they kind of introduced a sort of character, and one of the big things that she did to kind of establish herself, like, not that we ever get into this too much with Star Wars, is like in the power rankings, she does beat Boba Fett. Like, you know, she does kind of get the drop on him and poison him, but she does overpower essentially Boba Fett. And, you know, I know a lot of, you know, I guess like 10 years ago, a lot of people get their panties in a twist because, oh no, they're introducing a character and she beats Boba Fett in the first episode. How terrible. But I feel like they did a really good job getting her established, and they kind of rewind a bit. Like, this is several years ago, so Boba Fett's still a very young pup, and, you know, just getting used to the whole working for Boba Fett.
Also, she's like a couple hundred years old, so, you know.
Which you would never tell.
Even if he was like, even if Boba Fett was like 35, you know, she still has quite a leg up on him in that regard.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, I mean, it's interesting that you say that, Caleb. Like, I loved how she called Boba pup the whole time. I was like, that is great, because I bet that if she was like any weaker, Boba Fett would have like absolutely knocked the crap out of her, because he probably doesn't like that. But that just shows how tough she is. Like, you don't want to mess with her.
They've already established that she's going to make some appearances in the High Republic now, right?
Yes,
you could say that.
Oh,
yes.
you know about that. Okay, I've been kind of like dancing.
Well, no,
around
I don't think he knows exactly where
he doesn't. He doesn't know where.
No, I won't say any specifics. But like when I said, "Oh, I hope we see her again," I was like, "Oh, I know we see her again." You know, I didn't know that you know that yet. So I
thought she was in like one day, like High Republic,
You'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I was about to say, like, one of the comic series. She
comes
kids.
back around.
Good.
So, well, we go from one of the newest bounty hunters to one of the classics? Question mark. In for LOM, not for LOM. For
no,
LOM.
it's for LOM.
For
LOM.
It's
as
for
Daniel
LOM
Jose Older says.
Canonically.
Canon.
All right. I defer to.
Unfortunately.
I defer to the genius that is Daniel Jose Older, and I will say that it is for LOM then.
Canon.
Well, you know, like, back in the day, the like action figures were the wrong ones. Like, we didn't know which was which until like the 90s.
I'm just going to take the middle path, which may or may not be relevant if you've watched the latest episode of Boba Fett. But the middle path here, I'm going to say Forlom and Zuxus. Issue number 1, Zuxus Must Die. Written by, as we've already said his name several times, maybe if we say it one more time, he'll appear, Daniel Jose Older, with art by Kiyazama, released in August 4th of 2021. This will take place after issue 1 of the War of Bounty Hunters, after Boba Fett has already wrecked Forlom and dropped Zuxus from the spires of Nar Shaddaa. We see Zuxus having recovered because drops don't kill people in Star Wars. We know this as a fact.
They're not dead
Drinking
till you
at
see them dead.
exactly, drinking at a bar, reminiscing about the good old times where he started his partnership with Forlom, hunting the bad droid Dr. Carabiz. But the head of Forlom finds itself returned to the once dead Dr. Carabiz, who rearms and reprograms the former bounty hunter to kill Zuxus for revenge. But tracking down the doctor, Zuxus frees his friend from the control after a giant fight, killing the doctor, but the droid, after regaining his sentience, just runs off. So this one was a kind of a one of the more comedic episodes here. Did you guys did you guys feel like that was a option here, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think whenever you're gonna get something from Daniel Jose Older, there's always gonna be a little bit of humor in there, which I think is cool. I mean, he's written these characters before and from a certain point of view, but I didn't really expect to get such a deep relationship from them. I was shocked. Like, who knew that they were such close friends? I mean, Zuckus, he was really sad, to miss his friend, and I thought that was really fun to see, and to kind of, he has like this weird way of forming sentences, and I thought it was just, some humor came from that too, from like, Zuckus misses his partner and things like that. And I really enjoyed seeing their relationship, and I felt bad for Zuckus. I didn't actually think I would ever feel like any emotions toward him, no matter what they were. But here we are, and I think that's kind of the genius of what Daniel did.
This, spoiler for the actual Bounty Hunter series, this came and gave us shirtless Zuckus. This
Yes.
arc,
the most important thing.
Sexy
that
Zuckus,
is that
yes.
that is how this comic is ingrained in my head now. Is I was turning the page because I was rereading the trade paperback earlier today, and I kept waiting for shirtless Zuckus to show up, and I was like, oh, that's right.
I think
It's
that's
not in
issue
this one.
3 of the miniseries.
And now you're disappointed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thirst trap Zuckus.
Yeah, who knew we needed it, but we did.
And here it is. As Emma pointed out, it's probably the most comedic, but also kind of the saddest one, because it really ends on a very downer ending of like, oh boy, this once great partnership is now maybe forever broken up, and we'll never see them together again. Like there's a lot of meat to these bones of like the duality of these two characters working together. Now I'm trying to remember. I don't ever remember in the because they appear in the episode 5 together, but was it really ever established that they were partners like in canon before this?
No,
It's always been one of those things that they work together, but
I'm sure.
I mean,
never
maybe
really
from a certain
shown.
point of view, maybe.
Well, I'm sure it was
Yeah.
in some EU material, but definitely I don't think it was established in the movie itself.
No, Tales of the Bounty Hunter is where they really got their time to shine, because that book gave kind of did this back in the novel form. So that was a collection of, I think, 7 or 8 different books, different titles, and they got their own chapter, and their chapter was together. Jared, correct me if I'm wrong. I apologize for if I am wrong, but I'm pretty sure that I remember that. But yeah, between that and that's where they really were identified as partners. But I don't think that they've been mentioned too much in the canon stuff.
Yeah, no, I think from a certain point of view, it was definitely one of the first times they really got. Well, they were also in some of the old Star Wars Adventures stuff. There was like a 3-issue story with them and Han Solo and Chewbacca. But yeah, no, it's been fun. I have to say, just this picture of like souped up Forlom, like straight up might as well be like a Power of the Force action figure. This is like some 90s thing where they take the design of the character, like crank it to 11, and they add a bunch of extra parts, so it's like more of like, it's more playable than just like a 2-arm 2-legged figure.
But you get them in like 6 different pieces, so you got to buy the whole set.
Yeah, this is the one where you buy all the bounty
Yeah.
hunters, then you
Build a
attach
figure.
the legs together. Yeah.
Yes.
What a throwback.
That's so funny.
Exactly. So just a quick little side question here. Who, if you could have a choice between your partner, if you could partner up with either Forlom or Zuxus, who would make the better partner for you, do you think? Like, on one hand, we could have a cool robot, and having a robot best friend is the best. But also Zuxus would always be able to find your keys.
Yeah, I think
It's true.
Zuckus is the key. Like, how often do I need a murderous robot? Not very often.
And when we get and we'll get to there, but I would argue that there's a better murderous robot in canon. So I would have to go with Zuckus. Yes, I need his telepathy,
his Feinsman abilities.
Yes, that would be very useful to me.
True, but
I would also say Zuckus, but probably for a different reason. Like, I think 4LOM is too he's too harsh and gruff. I think I need somebody that's a little softer on the edges. And I think Zuckus fits the bill. Yeah.
All right.
But the robot, but I would say just to say that 4LOM, he's a robot, but he already works with someone. So he already knows the power of friendship. So we don't have to train 4LOM to have the power of friendship been trained. That was pre-packaged.
Did you miss the part where he tried to murder Zuckus?
That was
for the
scrubbed
entire issue?
out. That was scrubbed out.
And then ran away.
Triple Zero, he doesn't have the power of friendship, but arguably 4LOM doesn't either. I don't know. Who knows?
So, but if you want to find out how this is resolved, read the Bounty Hunters comic series.
All right,
Yes.
Jacob, you've got you had when we were reviewing this, you had mentioned that this next one was your favorite. So
it's my favorite.
You can have the honors and give us a rundown of this next title.
Yeah, so this is Bausch, written by Alyssa Wong with art by David Baldion. This was released September 15th, 2021, and is about Bausch and his Ubi's crew of bounty hunters. So he and all of his gang are exiles from their home planet Uba 4, and they're just kind of taking they're bounty hunters. They're taking missions, and they take one from Crimson Dawn to assassinate like the entire head of the Tag family. So they run into Domina Tag with her Proto Saber, which is wild, and turns out that one of the Tags themselves had hired them to take down the whole family, and Domina, of course, wrecks them because she kicks ass, and then hires them back from underneath the Crimson Dawn. So this was my favorite issue. I never thought I would care about these characters. I didn't know what Uba 4 was. I don't even think I probably could not have told you Bausch's species before this. Like, it's the kind of thing where I'd heard it before, but I definitely couldn't recall it off the top of my head. And now I love these characters, and it was probably my favorite comic book issue that came out all of 2020. So.
Wow, high praise there.
I was gonna say that's huge right there.
Yeah.
It is. This is so good.
It was definitely the sleeper pick of all of War of the Bounty Hunters, I think. I mean, I think when they announced the lineup, we've got Jabba the Hutt. Yeah, of course. Like, 4LOM and Zuckus. Yeah, it makes sense. IG-88, sure.
It's like
Bausch. Like, what? Like, are we talking about Princess Leia? No. We're talking about
Bausch.
like actual Bausch. Yeah. And I was absolutely surprised by how much I love this. And I also really enjoyed how Alyssa Wong kind of tied in some of the current Afro stuff with the Tag family. That was really cool. Because I was kind of wondering at first, I don't know if maybe she really liked Bausch, or if she was going to tie it in somehow. Because when the authors were announced too, I was kind of interested at that choice, but she absolutely killed it. And I'd honestly love to see more of this story written by Alyssa Wong. Like, I would actually take that. Like, please, can we have that? Because I want to know what happens next. Like, do they go back to their, home planet? It didn't really end on like a super satisfying way in terms of, Bausch and his people. But I was absolutely shocked by how much I enjoyed this.
Like, of all the one shots here, I feel like this one has the most meat on its bones. So I feel like we can park here and talk a lot. There's a lot of like really cool things about the differences between Blood Family and Found Family, because Bausch and his hunters are very obviously a bunch of exiles who didn't know each other until they were kicked off their home planet, and have come together as some sort of like cohesive unit who legitimately care for everyone in their group. Meanwhile, we have the Tag family, which is just like awful, just the legitimate kind of like almost prototypical like dysfunctional, super wealthy, clawing all over each other family.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. Like, I mean, this definitely showed that found family can be stronger than actual family, because Domina's actual family is a complete mess, and and Faust's found family is a very tight knit unit. And every time we talk about found family, I just want to gush about Utini. So somebody please stop me.
No, we can keep it going. Like, I do want to make one thing. I was quickly looked ahead to the Easter eggs. Like, the Tag family is most known for General Tag from the movies, but they also were in the Legend series. Like, they into 77's comic, like the Tag family. There. Yeah, like they came from that sort of Legend sort of thing. So like, she didn't like, this is like something that's been around in the back end of canon for a while, and it's really cool that it's seen like a different edge on light. Yeah. One thing I really liked about this series is how, this sounds bad, but I'm going to say it, how little it ties into the rest of the War Bounty Hunters.
That's arc. Not bad. I agree with it. Yeah, I agree.
It like, as I said last time we were talking about like the whole series, is when I was reading like through each series and I got to the Afra stuff, it was almost like a refresher course, because it was tangentially related to everything and still doing its own thing. So Alyssa Wong has done a really good job of like giving us a palate cleanser between all these other elements that are going around in the series.
Jacob, if I remember correctly, didn't Jared say that the proto sabers that they were, isn't that a legend? Isn't that a legend?
It's in the Easter eggs. We'll get to it, but yes, okay, it is a Legends pull.
Yeah, so that's always fun to see things that are pulled deep from the vault and brought back into canon. But yeah, it was an interesting story, because and I agree. I would say, we said that that for LOM and Zuckuss was the most comedic and saddest. Would you say that this was probably the most emotional of at least these one shots, if not maybe the entire event?
I would say so. I mean, there's definitely there's a little bit of underlying emotion in Zuckuss's like quest to get Forlom back. IG-88 is like very cold by design, and then I don't know. I think I didn't really get like any like deep emotions from the Jabba the Hutt issue. I feel like that's just more of like I feel like that's just like bounty hunters doing bounty hunters thing. It's just cool.
Right. It's just like an establishment cool. Sort of thing. Now, one quick thing I want to say, I don't have it in the notes, but I feel like we should talk about this more. I feel like this one also had the best art of the series, of these 4 issues. It was
very different. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, the other ones, I couldn't really differentiate the other art from the main or the bounty hunters, but this one definitely had its own look to it, and I really enjoyed that. It might also be because the Ubis people are kind of they look different than anything that we've seen so far, and so that brings its own uniqueness to it. So yeah, I really did. The art was one of the highlights of this one.
Yeah,
I liked the art of Jabba, because I could tell when they were going back and forth between the two timelines based on the art, and so I always appreciate changing the art style within a book like that to tell different times. But this is like, I don't want to say this is classic canon look to me, in the sense of the characters are sharp, the shadows are deep, and it really accentuates the character. I mean, this shot that we've got up that on screen, I mean, this looks, I could say that this was coming from mainline 2016, or when we were really deep into the Obi-Wan sort of and Tatooine parts of that arc. So yeah, this definitely feels at home for canon Star Wars art to me.
Exactly. And like Dominique, who had a lot of scenes here, like, they're not humans, and especially her she wasn't drawn to a photorealistic sort of thing, but almost very cartoony, which gave her a lot more expression. And I feel like they used like her expressions a lot more clearly. Like, I can still see like various like faces she was pulling in that series as it like came through it, and they could definitely read her rolling her eyes very dramatically, and it felt very it was helping the story along in a very real form.
Yeah, I think for me, like, one of the things that made the art of this so different is Domina, because we have a touchstone. We have a lot of Domina art, from Mikyu Jung in the Afro series, so we know what she looks like. And this is just it's different, and it's not I think it's well, it is good. It's not bad or good in comparison to the other one. It's just so different that it does catch your eye a little bit differently than the Afro series where we see her so much.
Mm-hmm. So some more quick actual story elements here. One thing I thought was interesting is that well, for two things. One, Crimson Dawn orders the exiles, the Ubis, to kill everyone on the Take family. But when we get there, they're starting to try to shoot up the council room, and one of them runs out and says, "Dude, I'm the one who hired you. Like, I told you not to shoot everyone but me." So there was obviously like a disconnect. So he obviously contacted Crimson Dawn, Silas did, and then Crimson Dawn said, "Yeah, just use these access codes and just kill everyone." So Crimson Dawn is definitely playing both sides here, kind of.
Yeah, but also, I mean, how easy would it be for somebody else in the family to say, "I hired you, don't kill me"? Like, how would they know?
Like,
Right.
that is kind of the sort of thing. Like, I was the one who hired you. And speaking of like hiring and things like that, at the end, Bosch willingly sells out Crimson Dawn, and so far that seems to be like.
Oh, I get it.
You said Bosch, that's my name, so it's
exactly.
I did.
You did. But they have been the only ones to like renege on a deal with Crimson Dawn. It always seems to be the other way around. Like, it seems like Crimson Dawn has allies everywhere, and they suddenly like pull out people from their hats, like, "Oh, I was actually an agent all along." Like, this is the first time we see someone like who worked for Crimson Dawn betraying them. Do you think this is like? Is this something that we will see more of, that you think, or was this like a specialty thing?
I'm trying to put this in a way I could talk about it more, but I end up spoiling things from this last episode or issue of Crimson Reign. I just think the Kira and Crimson Dawn know how to pull everyone's strings in the right way. For Bausch and his crew, they gave them money, which that's how you work with bounty hunters. But Domino Tag had a string that basically no one else in the galaxy has access to, and that's the ability to bring them back to Uba 4. Like, they talk about an issue where it's like, once you're exiled, like, our culture wipes you off the map. They delete your name. Like, you have no chance. You can't even get back down to the planet, and if you did, you would still be like ostracized from everyone there. But she gives them the promise that she can get them back there. And it's the same case not just with Bausch, but with everyone on the crew. Like, they're all exiles, so she's literally the only one in the galaxy that could probably do this for them. So yeah, of course they're going to give that up. We saw like in the cantina how much their planet means to them, and the ability to go back is incredibly powerful.
I also kind of wonder if everybody else seems extremely scared of Crimson Dawn, and I kind of wonder how much Bausch and his team there, I wonder how much they actually know about Crimson Dawn. Like, do they keep up with the galactic happenings? Like, are they privy to the information that's going on in the underworld? Like, what do they know about them? Because they didn't really seem super scared of Crimson Dawn, but I mean, if I knew everything that they did, I'd be terrified of them, which is exactly why people don't go back on deals with them.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, like, to revisit that question at the end of Crimson Reign. And I know that's kind of a cop out, but like, they went away for a reason, and now all of a sudden that they've come back, and not only have they come back, but they seem to have a lot of influence. So it'll be interesting to see what influence they have, and to, I don't know if we're even going to get it, but what influence they had in order to get Bausch and his crew to sign up to begin with, and then whether or not that really pays off, and the fact that they've said, you know what, forget you, if that actually has a way of coming back. Because I don't know, I don't get the feeling, that that's the kind of organization that they have, that there is no, it's not Black Sun where if you cross us, we will, wipe you and your entire, family off the, out of the galaxy. I think that this is more of a, well, and fine, you don't serve our purpose anymore. We have a greater goal in mind, and you're just not going to be a part of it. And so it'll be interesting.
Yeah, but, and I also kind of wonder, like, how, like, is Domina bluffing? Like, how how is she able to promise them that she'd be able to get them back to Uba 4 and be able to get their lives back? Like, how is she able to promise that? How do they believe them or her?
Well, I was about to say, like, I think the pudding will be the proof of the pudding will be in the Afra series, because Cav, she is pulling strings with Dr. Afra right now, and we haven't seen her necessarily betray any of the trust or any things that she has said to Afra, but she's definitely not been forthcoming. So we'll have to see how she treats Afra, essentially, to see how our boy is going to get out of this. And here's the terrible fact of the matter is, like, somehow Leia gets that armor.
Yeah,
that's true.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, we see, we see Leia get it in like Forces of Destiny.
Yeah.
But like what happened to Bausch? Like, I think we need to know that. And I honestly think that that's why they brought this character into War of the Bounty Hunters, to like just set our brains up for saying like, okay, I need to know what happens with this character, and I hope that we do. I think it's a story that is best told in the comics, honestly.
Well, it's interesting now that you bring that up, because they talk in the comic books like, we have to wear this armor because we're exiles. So what happens to an exile when they lose their armor?
Or what happens? What if you're not exiled anymore?
Yeah, I mean,
we know that they don't, or that he doesn't need the armor anymore. That because Leia has it. We have a cookie or a breadcrumb that Domina is going to try to get them back onto their planet and out of exile. We all thought, I mean, for the longest time, I always thought that he met Leia came about it between, by some foul means, but maybe it was, it's a much different story. But Emma, I think you're onto something. The fact that the mainline story is where it is in the timeline, and the fact that this character was brought back now, I don't think is a coincidence, and I do think that we will see that paid off before we get too far, before this current line jumps till after Return of the Jedi.
Now, so quick bets time. When will they show back up? Where will it? Will it be in the After series? Will it be in Crimson Dawn, or will it be at 20 in the Star Wars?
I mean, I think Afra is like the most logical choice.
The most logical choice, yeah. But as I said, like, this is this perfect sort of thing to tell in the Star Wars 2020 run of how Leia gets that armor.
Can I say both?
Well, I was going to say something completely different than you guys.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say Crimson Reign, or one of whatever comes after Crimson Reign.
Ooh, the Shadows Empire. Hidden Empire.
Yeah, yeah. Because I feel like okay, like they're in this quote unquote Kira trilogy. Why not? Like, why? What is because theoretically that'll be closer to Return of the Jedi. Theoretically, even if it's by a couple months or whatever. We could theoretically see how Bausch, loses that armor.
Yeah, I get a feeling. I have a strong feeling that we are going to see the end of this story before all is said and done. But for now, let's go ahead and Emma, why don't you go ahead and give a synopsis of our last title in this companion?
Yeah, absolutely. So the last one is the IG-88 one shot called Born to Kill. It was written by Rodney Barnes with art by Joey Villanova. It was released on October 27th, 2021, which was realistically only a few months ago, which is weird. So this one, after IG-88 was defeated by Darth Vader, his body was dropped off in a junkyard, only to be tracked down by a cyborg employed by Crimson Dawn, whose task was to rebuild IG-88. After booting up, IG kills the cyborg. He contacts Diva Lampomp and tracks down Boba Fett to try to win back Boba one last time before he delivers Han Solo. Boba does keep his advantage and triumphs, but he does not actually kill IG-88. He left without a directive. IG-88 returns to the junkyard and contemplates his upgrade path, aka he has an existential crisis. So what was that?
I was like, don't we all?
Yes, don't we all? Especially this time of year, am I right? All right, so this comic directly tied into the Darth Vader 2020 series, which is one of the few ways that Vader was tied into the project, besides like having his main line be in part of War of the Bounty Hunters and Vader actually being part of the War of the Bounty Hunters event. So why do you think, this is the big question that I had coming out of reading this, why do you think Boba Fett did not kill IG-88? Because as of, after Empire, that's not really in Boba's character yet to spare someone like that, especially a rival like IG-88. So what do you think his motive was?
I think that he didn't have one. I think prior to this, book of Boba Fett was very much a eyes on the target sort of character. And he's a very ruthless bounty hunter, but part of his MO is there's no collateral. There's no, if he has target A is what he's going after. And he's not going to waste his time, going after anybody else. And I think as much of an adversary as that IG-88 was, there's no reason for Boba to kill him. So he has this sort of weird personal code. And I think that unless there's a target, unless there's a reason for him to kill him beyond just survive, his own survival, I just don't think that's he's interested.
Yeah, I'd agree. Like, I feel like, his mission is over. He's like been through a lot in this past just story as a whole, and just kind of probably ready to move on at this point, and at least like reassess what he wants to do next. So yeah, I think it makes sense.
A bit. Like, also, IG-88 is a droid, so he's effectively immortal. He can be rebuilt several times over. So maybe one thing that Boba Fett doesn't want to do is potentially, kill a bounty hunter that might come back and hold a grudge against him.
That's true.
That's true.
That's a great point. And something that isn't in our notes, but is something that I've been kind of thinking about. What do you guys think of the idea of a droid having an existential crisis? Like, do you think that's something that is like plausible to happen to droids? Do you think it's something that's really silly that was just made up for this issue? Or I know this is kind of a deep question, talking about existential crises and things like that, but I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on this?
Droids have long been established as being less like mechanically minded and much more human and emotional than something like a Star Trek or something else that's really trying to do like artificial consciousness. Droids are essentially like, they have their brains are essentially humanoid. They have a lot of like consciousness, unless you're like a battle droid that's run by a single processor. So I think it's not unusual. Like, when I saw this and when I read this, like a droid having an existential crisis after being destroyed by a giant unkillable space wizard when you thought you had the cards stacked against in your favor, that makes a lot of sense. He's IG-88 is kind of one of the more mechanically minded as droids go. He was very methodical, but as I said, like, the numbers didn't add up. He added everything to 100% chance of winning here, but Vader gives 200%. So like, you couldn't calculate for the Force. So I think that's so I think having a crisis of like internal processing faith is not unusual for droids in Star Wars.
And I think that while 3PO's never had an existential crisis per se, but he's almost had a nervous breakdown. I've lost track.
He has crises. They're not necessarily of the existential variety.
I like it. Jared's in the chat, and he's saying that droids having existential crisis is one of his favorite Star Wars tropes. And I am all for droids. I like the context of droids' humanity. I enjoy just that general discussion, and so I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite tropes like Jared did, but I enjoy it. So I was really on board with this whole turn of events for 88.
Yeah, it's like, for me, I think if you ask me this question, like, could you see a droid having a serious existential crisis? Because like, existential crisis is a joke for a droid. I feel like is very on par for Star Wars, or just sci-fi in general. But if you ask me if they could have a serious one, I would say probably no. If you asked me before 2018, but after like Solo and L3. being a
Yeah.
thing. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh yeah. At this point, it's like, all right, yeah,
Good
sure, whatever.
point.
Like a droid can do, droid can do whatever they want as far as I'm concerned. So
Yeah, if a droid can like build themselves, they could probably have an existential crisis.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, I mean, this IG-88 issue was a little underwhelming to me, but it definitely made me think a lot about, more about existential crises than I think I wanted to.
And isn't
so
that part of art, is trying to make us think beyond
yes.
ourselves?
be sad. Yeah.
Yes, yep. Hashtag
So-
art.
So I think we've all talked about tonight how these issues have worked in their own in their name in a one shot sort of mentality, and some of them are stronger than others. But if we take a step back, these were one shots for War of the Bounty Hunters, for this 32 issue 7-month or however long it was event. In that context, do these as a whole, or maybe one as an individual, do these work for this event? And I'm going to start with Jacob.
I would say as a whole, maybe not. I think like individually, some of them do and some of them don't, or on varying degrees. I'm not gonna like pick and choose, but I think everyone probably has like a this issue worked very good, and this like actually like fit narratively. And that's not to say I didn't like them all. I just think some of them functioned out, like didn't need the context, the framing of the event. So yeah, I think they're all good. I enjoyed them all. I don't think they were all crucial to the story. So yeah, kind of where I fall.
Okay. All right. Caleb, I'm going to come to you. How do you think that these worked as as part of the War of the Bounty Hunter event?
I think they worked great. I'm going to be a lot more positive here than Jacob. I think the biggest thing that I really, really, really liked about all this was we got to see all the rest of the bounty hunters, and like trying to fit Bosch and IG-88 and everyone, like trying to get them all into the mainline series would have been a bit much. But by having like individual issues, we can have some of these side characters have more fleshed out sort of things. It really made the title of War of the Bounty Hunters fall into play a lot more directly. So I liked how I really like one shots. I really like when a artist can take a single issue and try to make one big story out of it, or one small story out of it, and spin a different sort of tale. So having this like individualized storytelling was great. We got to expand out the universe a lot more and see a lot more different facets. Like each one of these 4 sort of stories was telling a completely different story almost. So I was really happy with all these smaller one shots.
All right, interesting take. Emma, I'm going to come to you next.
Yeah, I think I was expecting more from the tie-ins. Now, the tie-ins, like taken at face value on their own, aside from being part of this gigantic event, were great. Like they told great stories in a compact amount of pages there. So I think that taking on its own is great. In terms of the larger story of War of the Bounty Hunters, I think that these are like not necessary at all, honestly. Maybe except for LOM and Zuckus. Maybe. But it kind of left me scratching my head why, we introduced a new character in Deva when she didn't show up in the main series. I'm so glad that we got her, because I love her as a character. I mean, seeing her in other things now has been cool. So I'm happy about that, but I'm kind of wondering, was this the place to do it? To have her show up in one issue for the most part, and then scattered in a couple of the other tie-ins. But again, like I said, overall, these taken on their own are great stories. If you want something that's quick, I don't think, if you want the story of War of the Bounty Hunters, I truly don't think you need these. If you're going minimalist, I just don't. If you want some good stories that are about bounty hunters that are adjacent to this time frame, this story in this time frame, I think these are the stories for you. But when we're talking about a companion piece, this is not what I had in mind, and I think that's okay. That also might be like a manage your expectations type of thing as well. So that one might be on me.
No, I mean, I'm falling on that side of the aisle as well. In that, I think one of the biggest issues for me with this one was it's kind of summed up with in the Jabba the Hutt issue, in that at the end of that issue, he gets the invitation to go to the auction, but that is technically the 15th issue. If you include the preludes that go into that lead into War of the Bounty Hunters #1, this is the 15th issue of this arc, and like we're past that. So like I remember vividly that kind of took me out of it, because it's like, well, why is he getting an invitation now when we've already seen that this event is happening? I enjoyed the Bausch story, but it's very, you could remove the connection to Crimson Dawn and still have a very, very solid story, and actually it's probably the better part of the story that you still have there. So I agree with you in that if you want to know what War of the Bounty Hunter is, you don't need this. And I sort of tie this to since we are a week later, I will sort of tie this to last week's episode of Book of Boba Fett, into where, okay, you know what, we're world building. We took a one episode detour and we world built around the main story, and I kind of sort of see this in that similar light.
Yeah,
I'm hoping that Book of Boba Fett hits the landing a little bit harder, because these didn't tie back. Like, we got a late start. They were individual stories, and then they never really came back to the main story. So they were great stories, and I love them. And that leads me to my next question of, what was our favorites, in that if we could only choose one of these stories to get its own miniseries, which one would it be? And for me, I'm going to go right back to, I'll go ahead and start this one off, and I'll go right back to the book that I was talking about, and that's the Jabba book. But I don't want a Jabba story. I want a Davis story. And I want either, let's either go back to the original, where she is coming off of the her mission with Boba, or figuring out why she has a debt to Jabba. But that's what I want. Like, I loved that character, and I loved that story. And I want to see more of that come through with its own, unrelated to everything else, sort of miniseries. So that was my favorite in that context of, this is the one that I want to see, have another storyline, have a finished storyline afterwards. I'll go back. We'll do this in reverse order. So I'm going to go back to Emma now, and which one would you like to see as its own miniseries?
Yeah, that was exactly what I was going to say, actually. The one with Deva, and specifically written by Justina Ireland, because I think she does a great job writing her character. And I go back to, I wish I mentioned this when we were talking about Jabba the Hutt, so I'm sorry if I'm going backwards a little bit here, but when she was on Nar Shaddaa, and there was this, I don't remember the species name, Kit Fisto dude.
Nemoidian. Yep.
Nemoidian? No.
Yeah. No, not Nemoidian.
It starts with an N. Nautolan. Yeah. So this like Nautolan guy like trying to hit on her, and then she kind of like plays into it a little bit, and then just like shoots him. I love that. That was amazing. That was so good. Like, I want to see more of that. I want like a whole miniseries showing, like what you said, Tyler. How did she get her debt to Jabba? But also, I just want to see her kick more ass. Like, it's just so much fun.
Yeah, she's a fun character, and hopefully we'll see a lot more of her. All right, Caleb, what about you? Which one would you want to see as its own miniseries?
Like, I feel like pretty much all of these are already going to be followed up on, so I'll take the dark horse. I don't think I was thinking about this when I first saw the issue or saw this question asked, but I'm going to say I would like to see IG-88's story continue.
Oh,
I would like to see more depressed droid philosophy, just staring
sad boy
up at
IG.
And just sad boy IG staring out at beautiful nebulas in space, talking about the meaning of life. Like, I could give it like 3 more issues before I could put that down. Just some real like deep dive onto like the whole like human condition, self-improvement sort of thing. I can suddenly see an arc where he starts listening to the Joe Rogan podcast too much. Like, oh boy.
Oh no.
Oh yes. Like, yeah, I want to see him like, try to like do a lot of like self-help and self-growth sort of things. Like, I think that could be a lot of fun, is seeing like a droid trying to grow. I think could be a lot of like existential dread fun.
It reminds me of that gif of the man staring out the window, like trying to figure out his life. That's what it reminds me of. Like, can we get like an issue of IG just staring out windows and contemplating his life? That'd be hilarious.
You know what? Your pitch has sold me. I would read that. I would absolutely read that. All right, Jacob, let's finish off this segment with your favorite. I have a feeling I know where you're going to go, but which one are you going to choose?
It's a tough choice, but no. Before I say what I will choose, well, I'm not going to choose Forlom and Zuckuss, and that's not because none of us chose that, and that's not because we didn't like it. It's because the story's literally being told right now in Bounty Hunters. So there's no need. There's no need for us to pick that one. But yes, I will pick Bausch. I want to see where this goes. I am hoping that it does come up in Afra or maybe Crimson Reign, but I want Alyssa Wong to write it, so I'm crossing my fingers for Afra telling the story. So yes, I want to see, what does Uba 4 look like? How do we get back there? Like, I want to get the emotional payoff of these characters that I have never cared about before, like 5 months ago. Come home. So yes, I will definitely pick Bausch. Yes, please.
Well, and we need the most important question answered, which is, what do they look like under those helmets?
Yes.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked to go if let's say hypothetically we get the story. I would not be shocked for us to somehow go the entire way and then them still not show us what they look like.
Oh yeah, that seems like something they do.
I mean,
yeah.
I guess Bausch is older, but we don't know what Master Chief looks like under the helmet. It's been 22 years or 20 years, so.
It's true. I mean, I can Google the TV actor's name on Google, but that's about as close as we're gonna get.
That's not even the real canon. That's the silver timeline.
I know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is a roundtable, and just like all of our roundtables, Jacob has done his deep dive into the Easter eggs of these 4 books. So, Jacob, go ahead and wow us with all of your amazing facts here.
So the first one's actually pretty fun for us up to date ish High Republic readers. I noticed this on my read through. When Deva takes the phone call from Jabba, she's on Dalna, or sorry, not on Dalna, but in the Dalnan sector. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I didn't notice that my first time around, but I noticed
I did not either.
Yep. So then when they go to fight the guy, they go to Mos Inta, which is a Tatooine village mentioned first in Star Wars Galaxies. There they talk about how some Soykans were working with the Hutts, and Soykans are not a often mentioned species. They're most known for Velko Jahin from the Star Wars Insider High Republic stories, as well as some of the more recent comics and story books. Then Jarm, her ex-boyfriend, was running missions on Naral's moon, which was first mentioned in the book Lando's Luck. And these were all from the Jabba issue. In IG-88, that's not IG-88, that's Forlom and Zuckuss.
The robot.
Yeah, they run into a crew on Nar Shaddaa, which is Cham Cham species from High Republic Adventures. The little
I thought so.
Bat/pig/chihuahua thing. And Zuckuss is going through Wormstew Town, which is Sana Starros' hometown.
That's interesting.
Wow.
The dewback rider that delivers Forlom's head is Sardis Ramson, who first appeared in Daniel Jose Older's story and From a Certain Point of View. He's a former stormtrooper. Then in the Bausch issue, the Ubi's homeworld, Uba 4, is first mentioned. This is the first time it's ever been mentioned in canon, but it was originally created in the Shadows of the Empire source book. We can never escape that as much as we
our
want to.
Good old friend Shadows of the Empire.
We see Domina testing out the Tag Protoblade, which is a reference to the Proto Saber first in Tales of the Jedi. Then Domina references trying to sell it to the Imperial troops. It's not like an explicit reference, but I'm going to take it as an Easter egg referring to the old Macquarie concept art where like everyone has a lightsaber, including stormtroopers.
I can see that.
So,
Yeah.
and then the only one I really saw in IG88 was it shows like some like little like screens of Boba Fett throughout his life, and one of them is his like armor from Clone Wars season 4 when they're on like the train heist episode.
Oh yeah.
With like where they're like trying to kidnap the princess or whatever with
Oh yeah, Ventress.
Ventress and everyone. I was like, because I like looked at it, I'm like, that must be some like obscure old like Legends thing, but I couldn't find it. I'm like, I was just scrolling through his Wikipedia Legends page, hoping I'd find a picture, and yeah, it's from Clone Wars.
Interesting. Great stuff as always, man.
Yes, thank you for your research. And so this week, we've talked about War of the Bounty Hunters. It seems like a lot. And this is the last time we are going to be talking about this for a little bit, but this is not the last time we're going to be talking about bounty hunters in general, because next week, in honor of the end of the Book of Boba Fett show, we will be talking about Boba Fett's history throughout Star Wars comics. So when you are able to, once you've watched the end of that episode and you've got a little bit of time to see what else our favorite bounty hunter has been up to, make sure you check us out next week. But until then, that is going to do it for this week's episode of The Cosmic Force. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the show right here on YouTube, where you can hear us live every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. We also encourage you to subscribe to our audio version on whatever podcast platforms you are listening to. Be sure to also visit utini.com for reviews, articles, and news for the entire expanded universe. And we also encourage you to join our Utini Discord community by going to utini.com/Discord. And you can also help support the show by heading to patreon.com/Utini and start receiving exclusive perks starting at just $5 a month. A special thank you to JG Kars, OK Endar, Patrick Ortiz, Carl Sanderon, Earl Q on our Jedi High Council, as well as Matt Billington, Kyle Hickman, Elizabeth Cloutier, Freddie C, and Sally and Chris Eilerson on our Alliance High Command. Thank you all again for your amazing support. Don't forget, you can tweet the show at Cosmic Force Show or at the host individually. I'm at Ty Rags. Emma is at Irma Jedi 26. Caleb is at Caleb Lamanek, and Jacob is at Jacob Bosch. Thanks again to my co-hosts Emma, Caleb, and Jacob for hosting with me. A special thank you to those of you who joined us live in the chat, and to all of our listeners for joining us wherever and whenever you are. We truly appreciate you. We will be back here next week, but until then, may the Force be with you.